Welcome back to Human Team. Today we're talking about none the other than the assault bike, okay? Commonly known as the ass bike for the right reasons, Ella.
It's just not very nice.
Least favourite piece of kit in the gym. We're going to talk you through movement efficiencies, what you can be looking for on the screen, and also ways in which that we could use this. But first and foremost, we're going to talk about the functionality of the machine. So obviously it's a bike, but your arms are working as well. So to me, what that means is I'm going to be doing double the work essentially.
Yeah. Something
like a ski erg or a rowing machine is half resistance, half not resistance when you're moving with the machine. This bad boy is 100% resistance, and that is why as soon as we start to go fast, we get tired very fast as well, because we're accumulating more fatigue with arms and legs moving. So I'm going to get Ella just to demonstrate how she would cycle on the ass bike. And relax. Okay, so what we saw straight away there is that Ella adopted this hinged forward position. She wasn't rounded over the handles, but there was a definite lean forward towards the handles. Now what that does is, it allows Ella to use strength and weight from her upper body into the handles to contribute to that push and pull. Our legs are still going to do the same amount of work. They're arguably going to be in a good position to lift and push from that hinged forward shape, but she's taking away some of the work from her arms just by leaning into the handle. So we'll have a look at that again. Perfect. And last part about this posture, which I did allude to, is the shape of Ella's spine. So when we're on this bike and we're starting to get short of oxygen, we want our airways to be clear, right? If they're not clear, we're going to have less oxygen coming in. So because Ella had a nice flat back, she had a neutral neck and she was looking forward, her airways are cleared. If she was hunched forward over, we're cramping everything in here and we're making it a lot harder to breathe. So key points when you're on this machine, as Ella's just showing you, we want to stay tall but hinge forward into the handles. That's going to add weight into our push and pull. And we also want to keep a neutral spine so that we can bring new oxygen in. Let's go, rip into it a little bit. Perfect. And relax.
Felt like Beyonce.
So if you want to have extra flex on this, don't tie your hair up. Just let that hair flow in the fan. Okay, that's the next coaching point. But in all seriousness, if we were using this piece of kit, we might be using it in different settings. When was the last time you used this in a workout? What were you doing?
I was doing toes to bar. So within the toes to bar, I was really using obviously upper body and core. So that meant I predominantly tried to use my legs whilst on the assault bike, giving my, out of breath. Tried to give my arms a little bit of respite from doing the gymnastics whilst I was on the assault bike. So I pushed a little bit harder with my legs. You could do it exactly the same in the opposite direction. So if I was coupling this with something like front squats and I knew I was going to be working really hard with my legs, I'm just going to give a bigger push with my arms on the handles and try and generate more power using my upper body instead of my legs.
Now, we're going to get onto some more of the finer details, but on screen we have got metrics like time, we've got power output in watts, we've got RPM, and we've got distance in calories. Okay, so for me, when I'm doing a workout, whether it's a long or short duration, I'm mostly going to be looking at the RPM, because I know, having practiced and recorded my own data on this machine, that when I'm climbing to specific RPMs, I'm going to get tired at a faster rate than when I am at lower RPM. So just like what Ella was saying, you want to almost understand the context of where you're using it in a workout and adapt your technique accordingly. So because we now know that fatigue builds up quickly because your arms and legs are going to be moving fast, you know if you look at that RPM and it's high, your arms and legs are going to get fatigued quite quickly. So if you're doing a longer workout, you're probably going to try and reduce that RPM so that you can manage your fatigue levels on the bike and stay fresher for other exercises within that workout.
Just on the RPM, it's a really good scale and indicator of how hard you're working. So it's a nice point to keep your eye on the screen. If you know your average pace, so for me, I'd say a good average pace for a slightly longer workout would be 60 to 65. I'm always going to try and stay within that range. I know as soon as I start getting towards the 70 number, I'm going to be really gassed really quickly. If I'm heading towards 55, I know I'm taking it way too easy and I can push a little bit harder. But that's something that you learn over time, and you want to get used to keeping an eye on your RPM just so you can help manage your pacing in workouts.
So that's a perfect tip from Ella there. So when you're practicing on these machines, it's very easy to just jump on and just go like the clappers and just try and rip into it. But to get more out of the bike in the long run and actually start enjoying using it and having a better training performance, we've got to start to understand the data that it's showing us. And the RPM, like you said, is a really one to start noticing. So when you're using this piece of machinery, try and zone in on the RPM that you feel comfortable with, and the RPM that starts to tip you over the edge, and maybe even the RPM that just blows you out of the water straight away, because then you'll know, am I already tired getting onto this bike, what can I handle? And straight away you've got a touch point to say, right, I'm just going to get to that number and stay there. Maybe you start to recover a bit and then you lift it on. So, key points so far, we've looked at the posture on the bike, so we're thinking about lifting up through the chest, keeping the airwaves open, but leaning forward into the handles while we drive down with the arms and legs. Ella talked about emphasizing either upper or lower body if you're using it within a mixed setting, maybe you're doing it with other exercises. And now we've talked about the finer details of checking in on your RPM so you can understand what pace works for you at fast, medium and long intensities or distances. The last part that I would try and educate you on is, when you're using this bike in a fast setting, it pays to get it going quickly. So if you get on this bike and think, right, I'm gonna do a gradual build up, you're gonna be doing a gradual build up for ages. What you really want to do is try and put as much force and intent into your first few push and pull and lower body movements to get the watts up. The calories will tick over very fast at that point.
You could almost call it a sprint start. So you're gonna sprint, get that RPM really high, get your bike moving, and then bring it straight back down after about 5 to 7 seconds, I would say.
So if you've got a calorie target, say we're sprinting for 10 calories, you want to get your watts and your RPM as high as you can, so that even if you start to get tired and slow down, you're slowing down from a high point down rather than trying to build up and then getting stuck and tired at a certain point. Ella's going to show you what it looks like to hit an 8-calorie sprint.
Oh, Christ.
So we're going to start on 3, 2, 1, go, and I want you to look at the power and intent that she puts into our start, okay? 8 calories, 3, 2, 1, go. Rip it, rip it. Woo! And relax. Bang.
8 calories is quite a lot. That was fine.
So,
oh,
we
God.
saw straight away the intent to grip onto those handles, lean into it, get the upper body going, but then piston-like leg movement to really send those calories flying.
We're going to talk about some common mistakes that we see on the assault bike. Number one being your setup, so your seat height. I'm going to show, Jack's going to jump on for a second just to emphasize this one. So, Jack's relatively tall. Relatively, he is very tall. Having his seat really low is going to make his posture really compact. It's going to make it much more difficult to breathe. If he yoinks his seat up, so should we do that? If his seat is at a nice height for his body shape, he's going to be able to press down and put weight behind the pedals, which is going to help him have a much, much, much bigger power output. So another common mistake we see is when people try and get off the bike, they're going to be racing if they're in the middle of a WOD. The handles are going to be going flying. They might accidentally whack themselves as they get off. I didn't do that particularly well, but these are pretty hazardous, I would say.
Hefty handles.
Hefty handles. So as you're jumping off, it's just good to be mindful of what the handles are doing, what the pedals are doing when you're getting on and off.
So that was our complete overview and technical guide to mastering the assault bike. If there was even one thing in here that you found useful, please like, share and subscribe. And if you want to see Ella do 12 calories next time, or maybe even we should leave it open to how many calories you think Ella should do as a sprint, leave it in the comments and she'll do it.
I won't.